In Cicero's treatise on moral duties, a Platonic story about the use of secrecy to hide heinous deeds is narrated. In it, a shepherd, Gyges, having happened upon a ring of invisibility, used the secrecy it offered him to usurp the lawful authority of the state and become the king, seducing the queen and crushing all opposition. But the wicked are not only lowly men. In the would-be hegemon of our day, the United States of America, officials are using the law under the pretext of threats and enemies in order to hide and thus continue the atrocities of that country's burgeoning imperial project. These state secrets are the ring of Gyges of our time, used by the state to usurp the very humanity of the people. In the spring of 2003, the United States and a handful of its client states invaded the state of Iraq to topple its tyrant, beguiling its own population with convenient lies to convince them that it had a casus belli and occupied that country. On the 12th of July 2007, in the course of that operation, the pilots of a pair of American attack helicopters attached to the 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, mowed down a group of civilians with machine gun fire, then another group of civilians who had stopped to aid the first, and, after local militia opened fire on the American forces which had taken custody of the scene of the massacre, they launched a missile strike against a pair of random passers-by. Information about this massacre was suppressed by the United States Army, and concrete knowledge was not known until 2010, when a video recording was leaked and released to the press. Yet there was only one person to be held accountable over this slaughter, who was neither the American soldiers who carried it out, nor any of those who suppressed the information. Indeed, the only person punished over the video recording of the massacre was Bradley Manning, the enlisted man accused and convicted of leaking it, among other documents proving crimes and atrocities by American forces. Cicero, of course, wrote that a conqueror ought to act with clemency in victory. This is not exclusively a matter of morality. While civilians may fall to a soldier's arms as wheat before the reaper's scythe, massacring them with impunity guarantees that they will not long behave as civilians. In the aftermath of the bombings of the 11th of September 2001, the United States, at the highest levels of government, authorized the use of torture against those suspected of being terrorists. While the torture farms run by that country's Army Intelligence Branch were exposed early on, the United States Central Intelligence Agency operated its own torture program. This was revealed to the American public in an interview by John Kiriakou in 2007. As with the aforementioned massacre by American soldiers, the only person to face prosecution is the one who revealed it, having been prosecuted under the Obama presidency under the Espionage and Sedition Act and being coerced into pleading guilty to a lesser offense. Because of this revelation, the United States would go on to pass a law, the Feinstein-McCain Act, prohibiting torture by American forces. Unfortunately, there is a major loophole in it, for this law does not prohibit handing captives over to third parties for the purpose of torture. Furthermore, because the prohibition of torture seems to be in keeping with the Fifth and Eighth Amendments to the United States Constitution, it could be argued that torture had long ago been prohibited when the CIA's program was being carried out. Cicero wrote that there were limits to the appropriateness of coercion and punishment. He also praised Roman officers who voluntarily faced torture, and through the example of a traitor to Pyrrhus showed that he took a very dim view of those treacherous men who would betray their cause. So I imagine he would have a very profound opinion of those who try to coerce men to betray their cause. There is, of course, also a practical reason to not torture. It doesn't work. Even if it were not an outrage against human dignity, even when carried out because of fear, one cannot even rightly claim that it is expedient. One does not torture to gain information, for when a man breaks, he will say anything. And make no mistake, every man has a breaking point. One tortures to produce an expedient confession. Again, the one who revealed this heinous crime is the only one who has been sent to prison for the crime of revealing the name of a torturer. Law is here, but justice is sorely lacking. Cruel brutalities such as mass murder and torture are not the only crimes carried out by the American government under a veil of secrecy. There are far more insidious acts which are carried out. A program of the United States National Security Agency, called X-Keyscore, is used to harvest the metadata and content of a wide variety of digital communication, including but not limited to email and voice calls. Nor is this only turned on enemy or foreign communications. In a single year, this system harvested the information of approximately 20 trillion communications of United States citizens with other citizens alone. That's trillion with a T. Make no mistake, this is a massive drift net, gathering up all communications which pass through the NSA's servers and stores them permanently in a convenient database for the American central government and any of its confederates to access at whim. There are those who, favoring expediency over justice, think that they have nothing to hide and therefore nothing to fear. But this point of view is extremely naive. For the very purpose of gathering this information is to use it against the person on whom it is gathered. When a thing is stripped of context or paraphrased in a certain way, even the most innocuous remark can be made to appear diabolical. Cicero wrote that in order for a thing to be just, none may it harm, and the collective good must be preserved. It is difficult to imagine the twisted mind in which treating the whole of humanity, including one's own citizens, as an enemy, and acting specifically with the intention to do them harm, is an expedience that serves the common good. The man who revealed the existence and details of this program, Edward Snowden, is in exile under the threat of prosecution for violating state secrets laws, having been granted asylum by Russia. It is no coincidence that a maxim of several of the hackers of Anonymous is that when exposing a crime is treated as committing a crime, you are ruled by criminals. Cicero follows his illustration of Gyges with an explanation of it in which he argues that many miss the point of this parable. The real purpose of it being to illustrate what wicked men may do if given the ability to act undetected. In the deeds of the United States government and its officials, we see exactly what such men do when given concealment. They murder, they torture, they surveil. When their deeds are unveiled, they give themselves impunity by prosecuting or seeking to prosecute the unveiler. Cicero writes that state power is a trust given for the common good of the people. Rampaging across the world like a pack of drunken bonobos, murdering, torturing, and building a mass surveillance network that would be the envy of every tyrannical police state in history is a poor way to honor that trust, and it is hardly to the public benefit. But the secrecy enforced by law is a greater evil than any of these things, for it is the ill which enables all such things. Gyges would be enamored with the beauty of our state.